All right, so get ready. We're going to take a deep dive today into the world of AI agents and what they could mean for software engineering jobs. We've got tons of research and articles here, and the big question seems to be, could AI agents actually replace software engineers completely? I've got our expert here to break it all down.
Yeah, it's a really hot topic. Understandably so. I mean, the advancements we're seeing in AI are pretty remarkable, especially with tools like GitHub Copilot and Tabnine, even ChatGPT and Amazon Code Whisperer.
Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves, can we back up a bit? What exactly are these AI agents that everyone's talking about?
Well, imagine you've got this super-powered digital assistant, and it doesn't just understand your instructions, it can actually learn from experience and make decisions to get things done. That's essentially what an AI agent is. It can analyze its environment, process info, and then actually take action, almost like having a co-developer working right alongside you.
Oh, wow. So it's not just automating those boring, repetitive tasks. These AI agents can actually problem solve and make decisions. That's a whole other level.
Exactly. And that's what makes them so potentially transformative, especially for software development. We're talking about AI that can generate code, optimize algorithms, and even find security vulnerabilities, all while learning and adapting to new information.
Now, our sources mentioned a couple of specific examples, like Devin and OpenDevin. What makes these stand out?
Well, the fascinating thing about Devin and OpenDevin is they're not just single AI agents. They're actually frameworks that use multiple large language models, or LLMs, working together. Think of it as like a team of specialized AI, each one with its own expertise, and they're all collaborating on a project.
So instead of just one AI assistant, you have a whole team of them.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds incredibly powerful, but also maybe a little intimidating.
Yeah. And it definitely raises a lot of questions, particularly about the future of software engineering roles. Like, if AI can handle so much of the development process, where does that leave human developers?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. One of our sources mentioned that AI agents could potentially revolutionize, well, all sorts of different stages of software development. What do they mean by that?
Well, think about that typical software development life cycle. You've got the planning, the design, the coding, testing, deployment, and then even the maintenance. AI agents are already impacting every single one of these stages.
Can you give me an example? Like, how are they being used, say, in the coding phase?
Take AI coding assistants like GitHub Copilot or Tabnine. These tools can analyze your code as you're writing it and suggest code completions, identify potential errors, and even generate entire blocks of code based on just your instructions. It's almost like having a really experienced developer constantly looking over your shoulder, offering helpful suggestions and catching mistakes before they become big problems.
That sounds incredibly useful, especially for tasks that, can be a bit tedious or time-consuming. But what about the more creative aspects of software development? Can AI really replace human ingenuity and problem-solving skills?
That's a great question, and it's one that's being debated pretty fiercely right now. While AI can definitely automate a lot of tasks, it's important to remember that it's still a tool. And human developers, they bring that unique blend of creativity, critical thinking, and expertise to the table.
So it's not necessarily about AI replacing software engineers entirely, but more about changing the nature of the work they do.
Exactly. Developers might need to shift their focus from writing every single line of code to more high-level tasks, like designing architectures, defining requirements, and overseeing that whole development process, and making sure that the AI is actually meeting the project goals and, ethical standards.
One of our sources mentioned that AI agents could potentially boost developer output. How would that work in practice?
Well, imagine you have an AI agent that can not only generate code, but also optimize it for efficiency and performance.
Mm-hmm.
Developers could potentially get a lot more done in a much shorter time, which leads to faster development cycles and quicker releases.
That sounds amazing. Any project manager would love that. But what about quality assurance? How can AI agents help with things like testing and debugging?
AI is making some big changes in testing already. There are tools that can analyze code for potential vulnerabilities, generate test cases automatically, and even run those tests and flag any issues that need to be addressed.
So it's not just about writing code faster. It's also about making sure that code is high quality and bug-free.
Absolutely. AI agents can play a crucial role in improving the overall quality and reliability of software.
This all sounds really impressive. But before we get too carried away with all the potential benefits, let's talk about some of the concerns about relying too heavily on AI agents. What are some of those challenges we should be thinking about?
One of the biggest concerns is making sure that these AI agents are developed and used responsibly. We need to be thinking about things like data privacy and security and, unintended consequences.
Right. We don't want to create these super intelligent agents and then have them, you know, turn against us or create a whole bunch of new problems that we didn't even think about.
Exactly. It's like with any powerful technology, right? It can be used for good or for bad. So we need to be really thoughtful about how we design and deploy these AI agents to make sure they're aligned with our values and our goals.
Our sources also mentioned AI agents being used for things like maintenance and upgrades. How would that work?
Well, think about all the time and effort that goes into keeping software up to date and running smoothly. AI agents could potentially automate a lot of those tasks. Things like identifying bugs, applying patches, and even predicting potential issues before they even come up.
So instead of just waiting for something to break, you could have an AI agent proactively monitoring your software and, taking steps to prevent those problems.
Yeah, that's the idea. It's like having a virtual maintenance crew constantly working behind the scenes
Yeah.
to keep everything running smoothly.
That sounds like a dream, honestly, especially for developers who are already, stretched so thin.
Absolutely. It frees them up to focus on more strategic tasks, like developing new features or improving the user experience.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential benefits of AI agents in all sorts of different stages of software development. But one thing that keeps coming up in our sources is this idea that the role of the software engineer is going to change, like fundamentally change. What do they mean by that?
I think it's pretty safe to say that the days of software engineers spending most of their time writing code, I think those days are probably numbered. As AI agents become more capable, they'll be able to handle more of those tasks, and that leaves human developers to focus on those higher level aspects of the development process.
So instead of writing every line of code, software engineers might become more like architects or designers or even project managers, guiding and overseeing the work of those AI agents.
Exactly. They'll need to understand the capabilities and the limitations of these AI agents, know how to talk to them effectively, and then be able to evaluate and refine their output.
One source even said that developers who don't adapt to this new reality, they risk being left behind. That's a pretty strong warning.
It is, but I think it reflects how quickly things are changing in the industry and how big those changes are. AI is moving incredibly fast, and the people who are willing to embrace it and, adapt their skills, they're the ones who are going to thrive.
So what are some, specific skills that developers should be focusing on to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, like we talked about earlier, prompt engineering is becoming more and more important. It's being able to communicate your goals and instructions to an AI agent clearly and effectively. It's almost like writing a really detailed set of instructions for a very, very literal-minded assistant.
So it's not just about knowing how to code anymore. It's about knowing how to talk to AI in a way that gets you the results you need.
Exactly. And it's also about being able to understand what that AI agent produces, evaluate its quality, and then make any necessary adjustments.
It sounds like a whole new skill set that developers are going to have to master.
It is, but it's also a really exciting opportunity. The people who can effectively harness the power of AI, they'll be able to accomplish, amazing things.
Our sources also mentioned the use of something called natural language interfaces to interact with AI agents. What are those and why are they important?
So natural language interfaces, or NLIs, they let you communicate with AI using everyday language. Instead of having to learn complex coding languages or syntax, think of it like talking to your virtual assistant, like Siri or Alexa.
So instead of writing, lines of code, you could just tell an AI agent what you want it to do in plain English.
That's the idea. NLIs are getting more sophisticated all the time, and they could make AI way more accessible to a much wider range of people, including people who don't have a background in computer science.
That's a game changer. It could open up software development to a whole new generation of creators and innovators.
Absolutely. NLIs have the potential to, democratize software development, make it possible for anyone with a good idea to bring it to life, even if they don't know how to code.
That's a really exciting prospect. But let's bring it back to the impact on software engineers. If anyone can create software using these NLIs, what does that mean for the future of the profession?
Yeah, that's a question that a lot of people are asking, and there's no easy answer. But I think it's important to remember that even with the most advanced NLIs, there will still be a need for human expertise and oversight.
So again, it's not about AI replacing software engineers completely. It's more about changing the nature of their work.
Exactly. Software engineers might need to shift their focus from actually writing code to more high-level tasks, like designing systems, defining requirements, ensuring quality, and addressing those ethical considerations.
It's almost like the role of the software engineer is evolving into something like a conductor of an AI orchestra, guiding and shaping the output of these powerful tools.
I like that analogy. So instead of writing every note, the conductor sets the tempo, chooses the instruments, and makes sure that everyone is playing in harmony.
So the role becomes, I guess, more strategic, more creative, and maybe even more demanding in terms of understanding AI and how to effectively collaborate with these agents.
Absolutely. It's a challenging but incredibly exciting time to be in software development. The people who are willing to adapt and embrace these changes, they're going to be the ones who shape the future of technology.
One of our sources mentioned that AI agents can also help with predictive analytics and decision support. Can you explain what they meant by that?
So AI agents are really good at analyzing these huge data sets and finding patterns that humans might miss. This capability can be really valuable in software development where there's usually tons of data about, things like user behavior, system performance, and potential issues.
So instead of relying on gut feeling or guesswork, developers could use AI agents to make more informed decisions based on, based on actual data.
Exactly. AI agents can provide insights that you just couldn't get from manual analysis, helping developers make better decisions about everything from design choices to resource allocation.
That sounds incredibly valuable, especially for these complex projects where there's so much going on.
Absolutely. AI agents can bring a level of data-driven rigor to software development that just wasn't possible before.
This kind of brings us back to that question of job displacement. If AI agents can handle so many tasks that used to be done by humans, are software engineers, at risk of becoming obsolete?
Well, it's a valid concern and one that we can't ignore. There's no doubt that some jobs will be impacted by AI, but I think it's important to remember that technology has always disrupted the job market. New jobs are constantly emerging to replace the ones that are automated.
So instead of being afraid of AI, we should be thinking about how to adapt and prepare for the new opportunities that it will create.
Exactly. The key is to be proactive, to continuously learn and evolve, and be open to new ways of working.
One of our sources made a pretty bold prediction. They said that developers who fail to adapt risk being left behind in a world where natural language interfaces, autonomous debugging, and self-healing systems are becoming the new norm. I mean, that paints a pretty clear picture of what's at stake.
It does. The software development landscape is changing really fast. And the people who are clinging to the old ways of doing things they're going to find themselves falling behind.
So what's the takeaway here for software engineers? What can they do to make sure they're ready for this AI-driven future?
I think the most important thing is to have that growth mindset. Be curious. Be willing to experiment. And don't be afraid to learn new skills. The technology is changing so quickly. And the best way to stay ahead is to be a lifelong learner.
That's great advice. So we've talked a lot about the potential benefits and challenges of AI agents in software development, but are there any real-world examples of how these agents are already being used, like in practice?
Absolutely. AI is already having a significant impact. Let's take a look at some specific examples. One area is automated code generation. Tools like GitHub Copilot, we've talked about it a few times already. It can actually generate entire blocks of code just from your instructions or comments. It's kind of mind-blowing when you see it in action.
Yeah, like having an AI pair programmer who can just anticipate what you're trying to do and write the code for you.
Yeah.
But doesn't that make you worry that developers will become too reliant on these tools and lose their core coding skills?
It's a valid concern and one that we definitely need to be aware of. It's important for developers to really understand how these tools work, what their limitations are, and how to use them effectively without becoming too dependent.
So it's about finding that balance again, leveraging AI to be more productive, but still having that strong foundation in core software engineering principles.
Exactly. Think of it like using a power tool. It can make your job a lot easier and faster, but you still got to know how to use it properly and safely.
Our sources also mentioned AI agents being used for quality assurance and testing. Can you give us some real-world examples of how that's happening?
There are some really cool AI-powered testing tools. They can analyze code for, for bugs and vulnerabilities
Right.
much faster and more thoroughly than humans can. They can also generate test cases automatically, which saves developers a ton of time and effort.
So it's not just about finding those bugs, it's about preventing them in the first place.
Right. By identifying those potential issues early on, these AI agents can help developers write more robust and reliable code from the start.
This is all incredibly promising, but I know there are also concerns about the potential, downsides of AI. One that keeps coming up is the impact on jobs. Are software engineers, are they at risk of being replaced by AI agents?
Yeah, it's a question that a lot of people are asking, and I get it. It's understandable to be concerned. But I think it's important to remember that technology has always disrupted the job market. Like, new jobs are constantly emerging to replace the ones that are automated.
So instead of thinking of it as AI taking over, it's more like AI creating new opportunities.
Exactly. The key is to be adaptable and to focus on developing skills that will be in high demand in this new AI-driven world.
What kind of skills are we talking about?
Skills like problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. These are the skills that will set humans apart and, allow us to thrive in this new era.
So it's not just about technical skills anymore. It's about those uniquely human qualities that are hard to replicate in a machine.
Absolutely. Those are the skills that will be most valuable in a world where AI is handling a lot of those routine tasks.
It sounds like the role of the software engineer is changing into something much more strategic and creative.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's a really exciting time to be in the field, but it's also a time of, a time of great change and uncertainty. The people who are willing to embrace the unknown and adapt, they're the ones who are going to shape the future of technology.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've covered so much from the technical details to the potential benefits and challenges. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap things up?
I think the key takeaway here is this. AI is a powerful tool, but it's still just a tool. It's up to us as humans to decide how we want to use it and what kind of future we want to create with it.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this journey.